Detective Jeff Prater, Federal Task Force Officer. This bio is amazing and it's very long. I feel like I should almost read the whole thing, but I think you'll get the gist of it as he starts speaking. I met Detective Prater at the National Elder Justice Law Enforcement Summit in February, and I've learned more and more about the work that he's done and how focused they are on elder justice in Colleyville, and hopefully we can all learn something from Detective Prater. He's like I said, a detective with the Colleyville Police Department Special Investigations Unit and is currently assigned to the United States Secret Service Cyber Crimes Task Force. Try saying that 5 times fast. Throughout his 23-year career, Detective Prater has worked in a number of capacities, including SWAT, Criminal Interdiction Officer, Undercover Operations, Federal Task Force Officer, T-pole instructor, and much more. So with that, I will turn it over to Detective Prater, and he is going to share his expertise with us. All right, thank you. And then he's gonna run because he's got something big going on.
Well, first off, thank you so much for inviting me to come over here and speak. I first met you in Washington, D.C. When I was invited by the U.S. Department of Justice to come and speak at a conference on elder crime, elder fraud, abuse to elderly, and they had asked me to come and speak because some of the success that not only Colleyville Police Department has had, but the U.S. Secret Service has had some astonishing cases that we've been the lead on. And we have been very successful in doing some prosecution on both state and federal side, including knocking down a group of Nigerians committing romance fraud for a little over $4 million. We had a group of Chinese nationals that did $26 million in 18 months. They had stolen, and majority of the victims were elderly. So we were able to successfully identify them and arrest them and bring them before the courts. And they've been held now, and they're being punished for what they have done. So elder fraud is something that's very near and dear to me. It really irritates me when people are taking advantage of our elderly. I learned something years ago from a prosecutor here in Tarrant County, Lori Varnell, and she's definitely one of the best prosecutors I've ever seen in my entire life. And she told me that if you're going to investigate crimes against the elderly, whatever you do not treat them like a number. Because unfortunately, that's kind of what we do in law enforcement. We have so many cases, and it's just another case and just another number. And she told me and recommended what I do is I take a photograph of my victim and I put that in my case folder, and it is the front thing on my folder. I do that on every single one of my elderly cases now. So as soon as I open up that case folder, I'm looking at my victim. This is not a number. This is a real human being, and it gives me a little bit more drive to push a little bit harder and want to hold these people responsible for what they have done to our elderly. Also look at it that, what if that was my mom? What if that was my dad? What if that was my aunt and uncle? I would demand that justice be done. So I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we hold these people accountable for what they've done. So before I get started, I do have a couple of opportunities for a U.S. Secret Service challenge point. Anybody who's ever been in the military, you know what challenge points are. They're very special to law enforcement and military if you successfully completed something. So I'll offer a coin up. Anybody could answer the first question for me. When was the United States Secret Service founded, and what was it founded for? This is, unfortunately, people online, you should have been here. It's only for the people that are here. Did anybody have any idea when the U.S. Secret Service was founded and what it was founded for?
If I can tell you the year, but I think I have an idea of the event. Was it Abraham Lincoln's assassination?
No. Very close. That's what a lot of people think. So U.S. Secret Service was founded in 1865. It was the end of the Civil War, and the counterfeiting was outrageous through the United States. So we were Abraham Lincoln wanted to bring our country back together again and unite us as one. So he agreed, along with the US government, to accept all of the Confederate money, because they were printing their own money, but they would accept that and exchange that in for Union money. So this way, those in the South would not be affected financially, and the South could start the rebuilding process. So that's what we were originally founded for. It was for counterfeiting, nothing more. Once the end of the Civil War, our counterfeiting started to slow down. So we started to transition. So here's another opportunity for somebody to want a coin. When did the US Secret Service transition to our primary assignment is protecting the President of the United States?
1901.
Here we go, 1901. Very good. 1901, President McKinley had been assassinated, and the US citizens and the US government was outraged over what had just happened, and they demanded that the President of the United States and Vice President receive some sort of armed protection. Before then, there was no protection for the President. So in 1901, the US Secret Service began protecting Theodore Roosevelt, was the first president to receive US government protection. So congratulations on that. That was the one I did not expect anyone to actually get. And she got the holiday. So I will get started with this. This is a short presentation. Unfortunately, I have a team that is actually following bad guys right now, and I need to be there. So I'm gonna have to hurry and get through this, and hopefully we can put somebody in jail today. So this, you've seen a little bit about me. I've been doing this job for 23 years. This is by far the best job in the entire world, in my opinion. I mean, you actually have an opportunity to make a difference, which is kind of rare. If you're building widgets, you're really not making much of a difference, but I have an opportunity to have an impact on someone. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best jobs. It's also one of the most stressful and one of the hardest jobs. And we have the highest divorce rate besides the US military. Luckily, I have been married for 33 years to the same woman. And so she is definitely way better than I am. So I am very lucky and blessed to have her. So what we're going to talk about is kind of protecting our elderly's finances. So some of the most common types of crime that we see regarding our elderly, when it comes to financial crime, is romance is probably one of our leading ones that we have out there. We've all heard of the romance fraud scams. This is millions and millions of dollars every single month that is going primarily to West Africa. That is where they are the ones who really have orchestrated and really have mastered the art of romance fraud. A lot of it is going to Nigeria and Ghana. Unfortunately, both those countries are not very friendly with the United States government. So once that money kind of goes overseas, we can't really do a whole lot at that particular point. That's probably one of our most common ones. And our next one is investment frauds. We see quite a bit of that with our elderly people. Our grandpa went arrest fraud scams that are out there. Our computer-related type crimes. We've all seen the little pop-ups that pop up and say you have a virus. You need to call this 800 number. That's really rampant amongst the elderly. And then one that really just irritates me to absolutely no end is the family and caregiver fraud. That is one that I just don't understand that one. That one irritates me pretty bad. I've investigated all of these types of cases and have successfully prosecuted all of these types of cases too. So to kind of break it down a little bit, to kind of help explain, some people may not know what some of these are, but romance frauds, this is one of law enforcement's most difficult and frustrating crimes to investigate. Law enforcement faces many different challenges when we're investigating these types of crimes. Here are just some of the things that we run into. Denial from the victim. I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to a victim and they are sending their entire life savings to a young man or a young woman that they've never seen. They've never met them. They've only talked to them online or through WhatsApp or something like, and the bad guy sends them a picture. Usually it's a very attractive looking young woman or or a very handsome looking young man. And that's who they claim to be. And the victim swears that that's actually the person. And a lot of times it's really, really hard for us to get them to understand that that's not who you're talking to. You're not talking to a young 27-year-old supermodel who's in love with you and you're 74. Okay, I mean, let's think about this one a little bit, folks. And we struggle with that one a lot. So due to artificial intelligence, we are actually been able to combat that a little bit now. So what we're doing now is we'll have the victim give us the photograph or send us the image that they have received of who the person is that they're in love with, and we will run that picture through facial recognition. And it searches the internet, it searches open sources, Instagram, Facebook, all those, and usually within about 15 seconds, we've identified who this person really is. Okay, and every one of these people have a very large social media following. I've had journalists in England, their photograph has been used. I've had numerous porn stars images used. I've had a lot of people in Europe who are in higher ranking positions, nicely dressed, clean shaven, things like that. And they'll use those images. They'll steal that image and then send it to the victim and they'll, hey, my name is Bill. Well, no, this person, is someone else. And then since we've been able to do this, this helps us out. Because usually what we do, we find that same image in that person's social media profile, and it's usually somewhere about 1.5 years old. So it's not one of the first ones you're gonna find as you're rolling through all of their images. We are able to find that. Then when we can show them, hey, look, this is not Tiffany, sir. This lady's name is Diane, and she lives in New York City. She is not in France, or she is not over here. That one has been very successful for us to finally get our elderly victims to understand that this is a scam. It kind of breaks that ice on there. The lack of cooperation from the victim, the family, and the corporate world is a battle that we battle all the time. The family is usually, we obviously cannot go talk to the family about what is happening to this elderly person because that is an adult, a legal adult. If I do that, I am now violating this person's constitutional rights. Okay, so we want to go talk to them, but we can't go talk to them. So that runs into a battle. And then a lot of times our elderly victims do not want their family to know because they're afraid. And what are they afraid of? They're afraid of losing their independence. They're afraid of my family's not going to trust me anymore. They're going to take away my checkbook. They're going to take away my money. They're going to take away my car. So all of these things that you'd just be surprised what happens. And then with the corporate world, obviously, court orders and subpoenas and all this stuff takes time. And a lot of the corporate entities that the bad guys use overseas, they know these places are not law enforcement friendly. And that means they will not give us information, even when we send them court ordering and demanding that they have to provide it, they will not provide it. So that's a big, big struggle that we run into. And these bad guys know which ones to use, and that's why they use them. Those are another big struggles for us. Losing the fear of independence, we talked about that. The amount of money lost sometimes can be overwhelming. I had an elderly victim in California, lost $850,000, lost everything he had. I mean, just devastating. Jurisdictional is a massive problem. And that's usually because a lot of our stuff leaves the US and it goes overseas. And we have countries that we do play well with, and we have countries that we just don't play well with. And most of our bad guys are in those countries. Cryptocurrency is really starting to be a problem. It is massively being a problem. One of the things that we just implemented, I actually put some out yesterday, is the city of Colleyville has gone and ordered and purchased metal signs, and we now go to our stores and retailers that have crypto ATMs, and we ask them permission to hang this up near their crypto ATM. I'm trying to warn our elderly victims to be cautious. The biggest one is, the most common is, you have a warrant for your arrest. And you have to pay, since you are not in this area, you have to pay with cryptocurrency. The US government and no law enforcement entity recognizes cryptocurrency as official currency, so therefore we do not take it. But a lot of this is really, really rampant. We just rolled these out, and we're hoping if this just stops one person, then it's worth it. It is so worth it, and we are having cryptocurrency scams weekly. It is absolutely horrible, and cryptocurrency is so difficult to investigate. Money mules, that is another thing that we're starting to see a pretty good rise in. And usually what a money mule is an elderly person that the bad guy has already stolen a lot of money from, and they've kind of cleaned them out now, okay? But they keep them on the hook. And what they do is they are now have other elderly victims send money to them, and then they send the money to the bad guy. Okay, so what they're doing by doing that is called layering, okay? And they're layering their money, so it makes it harder and harder for us to track the money. It's money laundering 101. The more layers, the harder it is for law enforcement to follow the money and track the money down. The average bad guy on a money laundering is gonna lose somewhere between the area of 65 to 70% of the money. They're gonna get to keep that. They're gonna lose around 30 to 35% of the money. But if you think this money hasn't cost you anything, 35% loss is not bad. When you get in $500,000 and you only lost 30% and it didn't cost you anything, that's a win. I mean, that's a big win for the bad guys. Investment scams, get rich quick scams. We've been seeing a lot of these. A lot of the bad guys will target our elderly victims because a lot of our elderly victims now they don't really have enough money set back, and they want to get a little bit more set back. So they're looking for some way to kind of make a quick profit to kind of help boost their nest egg. So they have a little bit more money in there. So we're seeing a lot of bad guys who are taking advantage of this. Here's just some of the more common schemes that we see: Publishers Clearinghouse, lottery, secret shopper, work from home scams, commodity exchange scams, and then the absolute worst one of them all is what we call pig butchering scams. Most of these ones you see are ones that they found out about it online, or they received an email or a phone call, and, oh, hey, Bill, no, I think you got the wrong number. My name's John. Oh, hey, John, I actually have this work from home opportunity where, you can work from home, and we're looking for some people who might be interested. It's really easy, and you can make a decent, you can make, $500 to $1,500 a week just sitting at your home part-time. So a lot of people go, hey, I'm sitting at home already. What do I need to do? So they'll fall for that scam. The lottery scams, I can't even tell you how many victims I've had that have been told that they've won the Minnesota State Lottery, but they've never purchased a ticket. You can't win the lottery if you haven't purchased a ticket. And then hey, you need to pay this FCC fee. You need to pay this tax. You need to pay this. And they'll get them to send $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. And the victim's like, well, it's okay. I've got 10 million coming. I don't mind losing $5 million or $5,000 for this, because I've got $10 million coming, and then the money never shows up. So that's very, very common, and that's usually cash. That's usually cash being shipped through the mail. So that's a horrible one. Commodities exchange, we did a raid not too long ago with the Bureau on a commodities exchange one that was actually, have you everybody seen the Wolf of Wall Street? It was a corporate setting, and it literally looked like the Wolf of Wall Street in there. There were games. You could tell there was partying going on inside there, and these people had scripts of what they were supposed to read to their victim. I mean, script out. This is the victim's name. If the victim asks this question, you answer it this way. It's really quite fascinating to get to see all that stuff, because we had heard about it and we never saw it in person. And this was literally exactly what it was, which was really a fascinating case. It's a several multi-million-dollar case that we're working. And then pig butchering. That's the one that a lot of people ask, what in the world is a pig butchering case? I don't make these names up, somebody else does, and I don't know why, but pig butchering is literally exactly like it sounds. You are fattening up the hog and you're bringing them to slaughter. And what they will do on this one, and I actually have I have one of my victims that's lost 1.92 million. I have another victim that's lost 1.4 million. I have another victim that's lost just a tad over $1 million, and another one that's lost $850,000, and the money's gone. Pig butchering cases are very common, and it usually involves cryptocurrency, and it's a quick investment, okay? Usually our victim has a decent social media following, somewhat to a degree. Maybe they worked in the corporate world, they have a little bit of social media, LinkedIn, something like that. And then they end up meeting someone online who researches our victim, find out, oh, the victim used to be in aerospace engineering. So they kind of ask them some questions regarding aerospace engineering. So it kind of, oh, this person knows a little bit about what I know about. So they kind of instantly bond. Usually the suspect is using a female, an attractive looking female in the scam. And well, hey, I'm doing this right now for an investment. It's really been working out good. I don't know if you might be interested. We've kind of hit it off with friends now. And they talk them into purchasing cryptocurrency for a fast turnaround. And it's usually anywhere from a 30-second to a 1-day investment. And they'll usually hit them with something small. Hey, $10,000, you can jump in on this. Victim sends $10,000. The deal goes down. Hey, your $10,000 just turned into $17,000, but I can give you that money right now, but I've got another deal that's coming up. You've got your 17, you're going to need 30,000 to invest in it. If you just want to slide another 13,000 in, and they keep building them up and building them up, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And this all happens usually within about 7 to 20 days. And the victim has lost, in some cases, millions of dollars. So it's kind of like the name. You're fattening up the hog and you're bringing them into butcher. And that's really what they're doing on that, this one is devastating. This one really affects the victim's life.
For $1 per month. Sign up today.
Grandpa scams and arrest scams. We are starting to see a pretty good rise in this. And what we're seeing that they're doing is they're using artificial intelligence on this one. We all know how AI is really changing the world, and in some things it's really wonderful, and in some things it is a double-edged sword. This particular one is a double-edged sword. What we're seeing that the bad guys are doing with this is they are researching our victims. If you don't think your information is not out there, you're lying to yourself. Everyone's information is on the dark web. Okay, it's there. You just got to get used to it. But what they'll do is they'll research our victim. A lot of them, they'll go to social media because a lot of elderly people do have a little bit of a social media, and they mainly use that because they can communicate with their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren because they're in another state. That's what's better way to be able to send a video of the great-grandchildren to grandma and grandpa to post it up on Facebook. And then what the bad guys are doing is they watch that video and then they capture their grandchild's voice using AI. And then they'll type in what they want the AI voice to say. And then if the grandpa receives a phone call, and the phone call, they hear their grandchild. Papa, I got arrested. I'm in Chicago. I don't know what to do. I have an attorney. Can you help me? And Papa is communicating, and bad guy is typing in what he wants to say. And then very quickly, Papa, I have the attorney here. Can you talk to him? And now the attorney, who's another bad guy, starts talking to him and says, first thing is the judge has issued a gag order. You can't talk to anybody about this because you're going to get yourself in trouble and you're going to get your grandchild in trouble. And I can get your grandchild out of jail, but you're going to need $10,000 to bond him out. Do you have $10,000 you can send to get your grandchild out of jail? Well, grandparents may not like their children, but by God, they love their grandchildren. Okay, and they will do whatever it takes. And I would tell you that I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter. I don't really like my son sometimes, but I love her. Okay, and she's number one in my book, and there's nothing any better than her. So they know this. The bad guys know this, and they exploit that opportunity. So we see quite a bit of that. And then what will happen is they'll wire transfer the money, or they'll send it over in crypto, or they'll even do gift cards on this one. And then the attorneys will call, we're going to get him, we'll get him out of jail. I'll have him call you tomorrow. We'll have him out in the morning. Don't tell anyone about this. And then the next day, the attorney calls back, hey, he's out of jail. I dropped him off at the airport. He's going to be coming home real soon. And then usually a few minutes later, the attorney calls back, Mr. Such and Such, your son got arrested. He had a kilo of cocaine in his bag. And the judge is angry. The judge is demanding a $30,000 bond. We went from $10,000. Now the judge wants $30,000. I can't get the money that fast, and then usually they've got the money, and now the victim just lost $40,000. And this is rampant. We are seeing a lot of those going on. We also have the normal arrest scams. That one is really big on gift cards, tremendously big on gift cards and cryptocurrency, where elderly victim is told that that they didn't show up for court, and they were stiffed, and they didn't show up, and now they're in contempt of court, and the judge is ordering them to be arrested and brought before them in another state, another county, and then lo and behold, well, since you're not in Massachusetts, sir, what you're gonna need to do is pay for this with a gift card or cryptocurrency. And then our elderly victim goes out and will go and purchase all kinds of gift cards. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, the court system does not take Nike gift cards. Y'all laugh all you want to. Have a victim this week who lost $1,000 purchasing Nike gift cards because they had a warrant for their arrest. Nike. This is another massive problem we run into. Computer scams and computer related, this one's self-explanatory. This thing's been around since computers have been around and people still fall for it. Norton antivirus, Apple accounts, Microsoft, Amazon, a pop-up comes up on and they call that telephone number on that pop-up, and that's the worst thing that they could possibly do. The easiest way to quickly identify this one is open up your computer and Google that telephone number. You would be surprised. There are several search engines. This is a known scammer. This is a known fraud number, or it comes back as a VoIP, voice IP address. Okay. The only people who use voice IP addresses are bad guys. Okay. We don't use them. They're bad people who use those. Because it makes your telephone number you're calling from look like you're calling from Tarrant County when you're calling from Nigeria. Okay, it changes your telephone number. You can enter in any telephone number you want to. So you gotta be, it's hard to educate people on that. This is the one that really gets me, we put a guy in prison for 20 years for this one, and I was smiling the entire time. Family and caregiver scams. One thing nice on the federal side is that the federal government has an enhancement charge regarding crimes like this, okay? And it's an automatic enhancement if the suspect is a person of trust, okay? If you're in a position of trust and you commit a crime and your crime is a family member, or let's say you're a banker and you commit a crime where you're a position of trust, your sentencing just added 50% more to it, and that's the minimum. So it's really nice when we can use that charge because we get a really hard punishment on them. Instead of being, 10 to 20 years, that's gonna be 15 to 30. So it's a nice little enhancement we can do, but you would be really shocked on this one. A family member is usually the number one person who commits this crime. I have to list caregivers in there because it does happen, but not nearly as much as it is as a family member. And the victim, some telltale signs of this is all of a sudden accounts being changed, new names being added to accounts, whether that be a family member or the caregiver names now being added to the account, new credit cards coming in, going in. One of the big signs is if you visit the home, everyone I've done that I've gone in on, I smelt the exact same thing. As soon as I walked in the door, an overwhelming smell of ammonia. Smells like cat urine, but there's no cat. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of these elderly people are wearing clothes that are urine stained. They're sitting in their own urine. They're not being taken care of. And when it's the caregiver or a family member who's a caregiver, they will not feed them a sandwich unless they pay $50 for that sandwich. You want this sandwich? You gotta pay me $20. You gotta pay me $50. You want your clothes changed? Well, I gotta do the laundry. It's gonna cost you $50. It's gonna cost you $100. And guys, I know as sick as this sounds, this happens. And this happens a lot. What we've seen on that one is the thing that really irritates me the most is I sat there and I interviewed a family member who was doing this, and his excuse was going to be mine anyways. I'm the only family he's got. And literally, when this guy told me that, my mouth fell open. I was like, you did not just tell me it's gonna be yours anyway. And he did, and he was serious, and as serious as can be about it. And I put that quote, in my arrest affidavit. And the judge looked at it and said, Agent Prater, are you serious? I'm like, yes, sir, I am dead serious. It's also captured on a body camera. And he was just like, go forth and conquer. Yes, sir, I will go forth and conquer. But these are some of the things that we see. It's really, really sad, when you're dealing with the caregiver fraud. And I don't want people to think that the companies that are providing care, it's not normally them. It's normally a family member. It does happen. You do have bad people out there who are in those positions, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot. It's more family members that are committing this heinous crime. But there's just some things you can kind of be looking for. Probably the number one person who identifies this more than anyone and is able to inform law enforcement is our financial entities. Our banks, our credit unions, our investment companies. Okay, because some of them will actually reach out to us directly, but most of them contact Adult Protective Services. And then Adult Protective Service generates a report and immediately sends that to law enforcement. I think it's within 24 to 72 hours that they send, depending on what level of priority that it meets, and then they send it to law enforcement. And then we now go forth and we start contacting that financial entity that contacted us. My last one, that was exactly what happened. The bank was like, man, something is not right. And they were afraid of elder abuse being occurred. So they contacted Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services contacted me. I rolled out that afternoon and went straight to the bank. And hey, this is who I am. I know y'all filed a report. Can you talk to me about this? And the bank was more than happy to talk to me because they filed the report. And it successfully led to a 25 year conviction on the federal time. And that is day for day. You do not get released early. You sentence to 25 years, you come out at 25 years. That's when you can come out, not before that. So that was a good feeling to see that guy, get prosecuted. It irritated me, and unfortunately he was, the only family member. A lot of our elderly people, especially in a lot of our cases that we start our investigation on, they pass away. And that's one of the hardest things for us to have to deal with because the victim's never gonna know that justice was done for them. Okay, they're never gonna know that. We do it, we go after them. It doesn't stop anything because if I can interview that victim, I can testify on his behalf because he told me directly what happened. I've had several of my elderly people that have passed away, never knowing that justice was done for them. I've actually had I've had a couple of my elderly people, I think I've had 2 or 3, that have committed suicide, because they've lost everything. And that one's heartbreaking. That one just rips your heart out, because they're never gonna know that the person who did this to them is gonna be held accountable for what they did. Never gonna get the money back. Sometimes we luck out, we get the money back. We had, a case that we won the International Chiefs of Police Association, award for transnational, crime prevention. And it was our Nigerian case. And we seized quite a bit of stuff off of them, some cash, but I seized 2 18-wheelers. Okay. Those of y'all, if you don't know where Colleyville PD is, we're a small police department. And we don't have room to store 18-wheeler, much less 2 of them. My chief had no idea that I was seizing an 18-wheeler. And he come bebopping down the hallway and, hey, where'd Jeff go? I think he's seizing something. He calls me on the phone and I look at him, oh, I'm not answering the phone yet. So I kind of hung up and then immediately FaceTime him. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm honking the horn of an 18-wheeler. And he's like, what? I said, see, chief, I just seized an 18-wheeler. And he's like, what are you gonna do with it? I don't know, we seized it, we're gonna sell it and get the money back to the victim. And we kind of rolling up and we actually ended up, now it took 2.5 years for the legal process to go through. But we took the 2 18-wheelers, we sold them in auction, and every dime of that money went right back to my victims. Now, they didn't get all their money back, but they got something back. And something is better than nothing. So that's about it that I have on the presentations. I wanted to kind of allow more time for questions from the group. My contact information is up here. If you have concerns or anything like that, even if it's not in my jurisdiction, you can still reach out to me. Trust me, I'm part of several different intel groups where we share information. And other law enforcement agencies, investigators, detectives, and analysts. And even if it's in another state, reach out to me. I may know someone that I can put you in contact with who can help you out. Surprisingly, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, is that Tarrant County and San Diego are leading the nation in successfully prosecuting elder crime. So that was the reason that I would have to go to Washington, D.C. and speak to the guys. You guys are killing it. You're going after these people and you're not pulling any punches, and we're not. We have a very good district attorney's office here in Tarrant County, and San Diego has a very good and aggressive district attorney's office there. I believe Tarrant County is one of only 2 counties in the state of Texas that has a dedicated elder crimes unit. That's all they do is elder crime and elder fraud. So when you have something like that, there's your proof that the district attorneys takes this serious, that they're going to dedicate not one attorney, 2 attorneys, 2 investigators, and a forensic accountant to this team. Just do nothing but go after this, and we stay pretty busy. We really and truly do. But if anybody has any questions, I've investigated lots of different types of cases. Colleyville was one of the very first police departments in the state of Texas. We were the first police department in North Texas to successfully seize not 1, but 2 crypto wallets that were being used in elder fraud. But we seized all of the money in those wallets and got all that money back to the victim, which was really neat because this is the first time I ever had an elder fraud victim that made a profit on the scam, because they bought when cryptocurrency was low. When we seized the wallet and they sold it, crypto had almost doubled in value. So my victim was like, this is more than I thought. Just be quiet, don't pass me. Get the money in your bank, don't, because you have to report that to the IRS. Don't forget that. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, either online or in person, please feel free to chime in. Yes, ma'am.
Are any efforts in place to do away with the crypto ATMs?
So this is actually something that I'm working on right now. I don't want to say there's no legitimate reason for a crypto ATM because you're really painting with a really broad brush, okay? But I don't see a reason for why anybody needs a crypto ATM.
Right.
Most crypto ATMs, I have seen the fee that they charge as high as 28.75%. Almost 30% is what they're charging for you to buy cryptocurrency when I can jump on Robinhood and buy it for free. So I just haven't seen a legitimate reason for it. There are some states that are implementing some restrictions on there. Unfortunately, crypto ATMs are falling into a gap where they're really not being regulated in the state of Texas. It kind of falls between the banking and the Texas Department of Regulations, but no one really seems to know where it goes. California has recently introduced a really good law, and as difficult as it is for me to say, it came from California and it's actually a good law. They have passed a law where a crypto wallet cannot receive any more than $1,000 in a 24-hour period. I'm going, well, this is wonderful because most of my victims on cryptocurrencies are losing a minimum of 10,000. Okay, so that means my victim would have to send money to 10 different wallets. Now, is that going to stop it? No, it's not. But what it might do, it might give just enough moment for the light bulb to go off. Well, if I have to send $10,000 for my grandson's bond to get out of jail, how come I have to send it to 10 different people? Why can't I just send it to one person? So that might be all we need to give us that little bit of an edge. You'll see when you're investigating these, all of our suspects keep the victim on the line the entire time. I've had victims been on the phone 5 hours with the bad guy. They do not want them to hang up because they know the second that they hang up, that's an opportunity for the victim to start questioning what just happened. Because they keep hitting them with things and not giving them an opportunity to process everything. I would love to see some crypto ATM restrictions put on. I've actually talked to Lori Varnell at the Sharon County DA's office about that last week. So she and I are kind of starting to work on a few things, maybe to go before some of our lawmakers and make some recommendations. It's not going to be a fast process, but I do think it's something that seriously needs to be looked at. I mean, seriously needs to be looked at.
Have a few questions
Yes.
in line. Does anybody else in here have a question? Okay, we have a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Detective Prater, for all you do. I am curious why he thinks Tarrant County and San Diego County are the most focused. Is it due to the number of cases and claims?
I don't know. I was actually kind of shocked when DOJ told me that. They said, you're doing more than anyone.
Just leadership.
And I don't know if it's because there is a lot of retirees in Southern California because the climate is good. I would think the same thing in Florida, nice, clear, nice, good weather. Texas used to have one of the lowest cost of livings, but now California's come to Texas. Our cost of living is going up. So I don't really know why. I know San Diego has a dedicated elder fraud unit. That's all they do is elder fraud. I know they are also on a federal task force. They're on an FBI task force and we're on a Secret Service task force. We have seen that whenever you have the task forces in place and they're involved in the investigation, we have more resources versus just the law enforcement. Police department has. I've got a lot bigger budget on the federal side and I have a lot of access to things that police officers don't have access to. And if I have a bad guy who's in another part of the country, I can call Secret Service in Romania and say, hey, I've got this guy who's receiving stolen funds from elderly victims. Can you maybe do some boots on the ground in Romania for him? And be surprised. The agent's like, yeah, I can go out and do that for you. So we have a lot more tools in our toolbox. And maybe that's the reason that we're being a little bit more successful.
Thank you. What is the shortest and longest amount of time you have been able to prosecute?
Like punishment, or are we talking the actual investigation? That would be-
I'm gonna guess, well, that's a good question. I can see it both ways, maybe answer it both ways.
So I'll try to answer it both ways on that. The longest sentencing that I have gotten, so far is 44 years was the longest sentencing. The shortest sentencing that we got was a one, and don't misunderstand this when I say it, but was 2 years probation. Okay, the only reason this person got 2 years probation, they were a little bitty fish. They really weren't worth that much, but they helped me catch the big guy. So I don't mind cutting a deal to the guy who's not that important to help me catch the bigger guy, because this is the problem, not this. So that's from the range as far as investigation goes. Depending on the investigation, we wrapped one up not too long ago. We did it in just under 90 days, which is really, really fast for a large investigation. But especially if it's a federal investigation, those are anywhere from a year to a year and a half long investigation. So it's a lot of time tied up in these cases.
And I suppose embarrassment and shame play a big part in whether people report or are willing to prosecute. Can you talk about that?
Yes, kind of like what we talked about a little bit earlier, and one of the first couple of slides, a lot of the elderly people are embarrassed and ashamed, and they do not want to report this because they are afraid that their family will find out what happened. Their family will take away their bank account and only give them, shall we call it, an allowance. They're worried that the family may even take away their driver's license so they can't go to the bank to do this stuff. So that is probably the biggest hurdle that we have to get over is getting victims to report the crime, because they're embarrassed. One of the things that I always tell my victims is, have you ever gone to a Broadway musical? Have you ever gone to a movie theater? Okay, especially Broadway musicals. I love musicals. You go to a Broadway musical, what happens? The lights dim. The musical starts. And about 10 minutes into that musical, you feel like you're part of that musical. You feel like you're right there on stage. And that's exactly what these bad guys do. These bad guys are actors. And they will go in there and they will draw that victim in. And the victim feels like they're in this romantic relationship. They're involved in this. And then all of a sudden, they're scammed. And now they're embarrassed and they're ashamed of it. So that's one of the things we always try to really preach to our victims is do not be embarrassed, do not be ashamed. These guys are professionals. Okay, they're trained, they know what to do. They have a script, you have nothing. And they're playing off of your emotions. So yes, it does happen.
Yeah, it's good. One of the committees has put together an idea to create a campaign for anti-stigma, like taking a pledge and getting people to do that, spread the word. So I think there'll be more trying to eliminate some of that. And then Andrea Earl from AARP Policy says, California has a great law. Would love to do this in Texas. We'll need this group's help to, meaning the Texas Elder Justice Coalition, to move that through, or at least move something similar through. So there you go. We'll just all join arms and get that done. You and Lori and everybody else. Is there a quick fact sheet for red flags and a hotline? So that was something that Texas Elder Justice Coalition is kind of working on with the committees, trying to put together a wallet card with some phone numbers and different types, but I guess you're not familiar with anything like that right now, are you?
There's been a lot of talk of something like that, a red flag sheet that people can have. The problem you run into is that there are so many different red flags for so many different scams. It would literally be a sheet of paper like this, front and back, and 5 or 6 of them long.
Yeah.
I honestly think one of the best things that we can do is everything revolves around money. Okay, so we need to go after the heart, go after the money. I think one of the best things that we can do is educate our financial entities. Our financial entities, we need to educate them. Most banks don't even know that there is a law on the books in Texas that they can refuse to release someone's money to them if the bank suspects that that they are a victim of a fraud. And the bank can hold that money for 72 hours. And the person will be like, well, I need this money now. You're not getting it. That gives the bank 72 hours to notify law enforcement. And law enforcement can look into this and stop a possible scam. So when you have your elderly victim, and I've actually got several of my banks in Colleyville on board with that, and we've actually had it happen where an elderly person walks in and makes an unusual withdrawal. This person never withdraws a lot of money, and all of a sudden they're withdrawing $5,000, $10,000, and they only withdraw maybe $200 every couple of months. Christmas time, they'll withdraw a little bit more money because they're going to give their grandchildren some money. But all of a sudden they come in here and they're withdrawing a large amount of money, and they won't get off the phone. Okay? Big thing with elderly people, they will not talk to you holding this in their hand because this is a sign of disrespect in their mind. They will put that phone down and talk to the banker. They've done it all the time. So we've gone to our banks and we've explained that to them and be looking for this. And then lo and behold, I did that about 3 weeks after I did that. Wells Fargo called me and said, I think we have an elderly victim in here being scammed. She's withdrawn $20,000 and she won't get off the phone. I said, don't give her the money. I'll be there in 3 minutes. And I ran lights and sirens to get there, got there. I got to call it out on the radio. She won't get off the phone. I'm like, ma'am, and she was muted. I have a warrant. I'm gonna go to jail. No, ma'am, you don't have a warrant. I finally took the phone out of her hand and hung up the phone. Phone immediately blew up. Bad guys calling, bad guys calling, bad guys calling, trying to get her back on the phone. He's lost contact. He's got to get her back on the phone. She was told to go buy gift cards. to pay off for the warrant for her arrest that she had. I told her, I said, ma'am, if this guy is a law enforcement officer, he's gonna be professional. He's not gonna be rude. He's not gonna be disrespectful, right? So I answered the phone. He says, who are you? I said, who are you? You're calling me. Well, I need to speak to such. I said, well, you need to leave her alone. He doesn't have a warrant for her arrest. Leave her alone. And he says, you're interfering with a police investigation and I will have you arrested. And my name is Officer such and such with the Dallas County Sheriff's Police Department. There is no such thing as the Dallas County Sheriff's Police Department. Because if you want to insult a sheriff, is you call them a police department, because they are not. And I told him, I said, well, I'll tell you what, sir, if you want to arrest me, I'm at 125 East John Carpenter Freeway, 3rd floor. When you open it, when the elevators open up and you step out, you will see a big silver sign that says United States Secret Service. I will be there waiting with 4 more agents, waiting for you to come and arrest me. He cussed me out and hung up the phone. I flipped the phone over. I said, man, that was 42 seconds. 42 seconds, he cussed me out. No law enforcement officer is going to do that to you. And she broke down and started crying. She has a PhD. She's an educated person. So that's another misunderstanding. A lot of them think these are uneducated. She has a PhD. But yeah, there's so many red flags. There's just so many. But notifying, I think informing our banks, our credit unions, Fidelity, places like that deal with money, I think that is where we need to focus the most on, have them be more aware, have training for them. I think that would be our biggest thing that we need to do.
Training for everybody, right? And all together.
Yes.
So there are a couple more questions, but I did want to bring this up really quickly while everybody's on the topic. There is a page on the website that is report abuse, and it's a little slow there. It goes, in case you guys see it. And then it has a drop down. There's different types of financial abuse, and it tells you to call the local police and report to APS, or if it's abuse in a nursing home, there's the steps to report long-term care by scam. And the first action in all of them is report to the local police. So that's one thing that could possibly be a resource. And I don't know how much time you have left. I know it's already 3 o'clock. However, there's a couple more questions, and it's about banking institutions. Can they put a security key code authentication in place? On the AI voices, is there a way to filter the authenticity of the voice and verify information?
That's way above my knowledge of computers.
Does identity theft services help? I guess that's relating to like the FTC identity theft.
It does, the FCC does monitor quite a bit of this stuff, and they do gather a tremendous amount of data. They seem to focus a lot on more of the impersonation fraud type cases, which is someone impersonating law enforcement or impersonating this. And they, I don't want to say recently started this, but when I say recently, within the last 5 years. And they're really dedicating a lot of money and resources to this. So I think the FCC, now they're already a good contact. I'm actually had one of the chiefs, and I call him probably once a month, and he calls me once a month on something. I think in the next year to 2 years, they're going to be a major source for law enforcement to use. The program is exploding for them, which is great. I mean, it really and truly is. But yeah, I think that's a good sign. I think the number one thing that people can do if they suspect fraud is, yes, contact your local police department, but not only do that, contact Adult Protective Services. Okay, especially if the victim is in a town that's a very large town, very large city. They have to prioritize things. I mean, I hate to say that, but Dallas, this is a low priority compared to everything else. So it may be several days before they're finally able to get to it. But if they at least generate that Adult Protective Services, they can expedite this and get this moving a little bit quicker. So I think do both. local police department, adult protective services, do both of them.
And I think that is, in most of those, the second step, but did you have anything you wanted to say about that, Amanda?
Well, first I want to say to take the great presentation. I want to thank you for all the work that you do. We've worked well together and those collaborations. It is very important that we all get APS involved. I think we are doing that here, locally as it relates to referring to these cases, so that we can get out there. And like Tejc said, we can go out there, we can change those priorities. It may be a priority 3 with 72 hours, but if we see that it's something that is, immediate intervention is needed, we can move that up and we see it in 24 hours. So I just want to say, please get us involved as soon as possible. You think it's going on, you may not even know all the information, just give us what you do know, and then we can go out there and we'll take it from there. And detectives like Detective Prater and everyone that's on the team, law enforcement, we just thank you all for collaborating with us when it comes to financial exploitation. So thank you.
It takes everyone working together. And the neat thing with y'all is that y'all have some abilities that we don't have.
You bet.
And a lot of law enforcement don't really realize that there's a lot of things that adult protective services can do that I could do it too, but it's gonna take me a week. And they may be able to get it done in 24 hours. And that 24 hours can make a huge difference. So if we all work together, work smarter, not harder. I mean, it's just that simple. Work together as a team.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, wonderful. One last question. Is there a minimum dollar amount related to fraud or scam to receive the full support of the police department, or are all reports claims regardless of the dollar value treated with the same importance and level of priority?
An offense is an offense, okay? Whether it's a $1 loss or it's a $10 million loss, it's still a crime. Obviously, the more money that's lost changes the type of crime that it is or the punishment phase of the crime. I think one of the biggest problems that we run into in law enforcement is that the victim reports the crime, a patrol officer takes the report. Patrol officer types up the report, submits the report for approval. Usually 1 or 2 days later, the report is approved. Now it goes transferred over to the CID supervisor. The CID supervisor reads over the report, and then they assign it to a detective. Bigger agencies, this may take a week before a detective gets that case. For us, 1 day. If my officers take a report today, that case is assigned to someone tomorrow. But I've got my officers trained where if they have a fresh scam that is in progress, they immediately notify the supervisor, they immediately notify me, and I immediately begin the case. And that has been successful for us regarding cryptocurrency, and it's been successful for us regarding gift card scams. We have a victim that this week, she lost $4,300 in gift card scams. It happened, they reported it at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I was notified that evening. I wasn't at work because I'm home. 7 o'clock that morning, I was already on the phone, and by 7:15, I had $2,200 of her money back. But we have to move fast. If it had gone through the normal process where I wouldn't get it till the next afternoon, that money would have been gone. So the quicker we're able to move, the better. It doesn't matter if it's a $10 loss or a $10,000 loss, I'm gonna treat it the same way. But if it's a larger loss where we're hitting $500,000 or more, then we can access federal resources. We can't use federal time on a $4,500 loss. Because we're just way too busy on the Fed side. We're just way too busy. And the U.S. Attorney's Office is probably not gonna take that small loss. But guess what? Where that small loss is, I promise you that small loss is linked to 100 more. And if I can link it to this one and this one and this one and this one, now what did I just do? I just built $1 million case. Now the U.S. Attorney's Office will take it. But sometimes you have to work it up there to get it to that big case that you can go after.
Wow. All right. I don't see any more questions here, and so much more to do. So very exciting to see where we are in 6 more months. I guess we'll be in the midst of planning a summit. So the best part of the meeting is our presenter, of course. And I set my introduction down. So it is my pleasure to introduce Jeff